because I guarantee you can find some hours that you're burning on your phone looking at social, right? Instead of doing that, like I deleted social to actually write a book. Big surprise. Big secret, right? It's like if I'm scrolling on social, guess what? I don't write a book. Let's think about this for an hour, right? So it's like which one should I do? Which one will lead me to a better path, right?
I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that'll reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities. Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. Today we get to speak with Henrik De Gyor. He's a consultant at Another DAM Consultancy who assists, advises, and advocates for his clients. Henrik has previously worked in the fields of advertising, automobiles, construction, education, finance, journalism, manufacturing, marketing, media, retail, and technology. Henrik is also an active speaker, a podcaster with 9 podcast series, and an author of 9 published books. Henrik works remotely from South Carolina, where he lives with his wife. So let's jump on in to this episode as we learn how Henrik got into the Another DAM Consultancy, as well as starting these 9 podcast series. Henrik, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks, Junaid, for having me.
Dude, I'm so excited to have this conversation. We had a conversation a couple weeks ago, and the level of depth you've gone into so many different categories of information, it's just mind-blowing. It's almost like I could call you a polymath because of the level of details you've learned. How did that come to be?
So it started with curiosity. So I was a photographer for a decade in the .com days, .com boom and bust. I saw the writing on the wall that photography and journalism was coming to an end of its of its heydays. And while creating was fun and being creative was fun and adventurous, it didn't pay very well. And so what I figured out was managing media had a longer trajectory in the future, and I was right. So what I started doing is instead of working for newspapers and magazines in the DC area, in institutions that used photography, I started doing photography, managing finished photography, video, audio, graphics, etc., for organizations as a consultant. After I did a stint as a digital asset manager. So I started in digital asset management well before it was called that. And it was just finding your stuff faster when you would shoot 250,000 images a year. And
oh my God.
Kind of important to know where one is when you need it in a few minutes, because deadlines were usually daily, if not hourly, in the newspaper world and the website world and the magazine world sometimes. And so beyond that, it was managing stuff, right? And one day, a company called me up and said, can you help advertising organization with their DAM? And I was like, sure, I can do that. And so I helped them do that and set up their DAM, digital asset management system.
Damn.
For the, yeah, it's true. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a running joke, right? It's
Yeah.
DAM, but
Yeah,
you can add
DAM.
an N.
Mm.
You can add an N in there most of the time. um, anyways, the same company eventually asked me, "Is like, well, do a lot of companies have DAM problems?" And I was like, "Yeah, they do." I've talked to many of them because at that point I'd already started a blog and a podcast,
Mhm.
one called Another DAM Blog and Another DAM Podcast. And I was like, what? So yeah, I have to continue the joke, right?
Yes, you do.
Um, so so I helped that company started a practice, and then eventually a Fortune 500 company contact. I was in talks with a CIO there, and at one of the clients, and they said, "Well, we really like you,
Mm.
but we don't like the company you work for." I was like, "Okay, so the writing's on the wall that
Yeah.
I need to leave and start my own firm."
Mm. Yeah.
So I did.
Yeah.
And it's like, what should I call my firm? My own firm. Let's see. I have another damn blog. I have
Mhm.
another damn podcast. How about Another Damn Consultancy?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Totally.
so it's almost been 10 years now that I have Another Damn Consultancy. And
Okay.
still thriving in that space. But
Mhm.
beyond that, I had um, an itch to scratch as far back to curiosity. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, so company, it's fascinating to look into the side of companies and see what kind of media they have and how they work with it, and or need to work with it better, right? And make it more efficient, and the
Mhm.
digital transformations aspects of it, which is
Yeah.
typically the case, especially even more nowadays in the past 2 years, that where it's really evident that you have to have digital transformation pretty much done,
Yeah.
or there's going to be problems, right?
Oh, yeah.
Long story short, in that journey, to your point of scratching that itch and curiosity, I created not one podcast, not just one book about about digital asset management, but I'm writing my 10th right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've written 9 books as of this year, in 2022, and I have 9 podcasts that I run as well. Most of them I host, except for one, but I've created 9, all on different subjects,
Mhm.
some related to each other.
Yeah.
So I went down the road of digital asset management. So I have the longest running podcast series about digital asset management,
Nice.
Another Damn Podcast. And then I scratched that itch. I was like, well, what else is there? Well, there's tagging, there's metadata. That really
Mhm.
exciting topic that everyone wants to do all
Oh
day
my
long.
god,
Just kidding.
metadata,
Just
baby.
just kidding. So maybe there's an avenue in this
Mm.
space where I explored, like, okay, well, there's human taggers, there's companies that do this, there's people that do this, right?
Yeah.
But there's like growing concept of auto tagging, of
Mm.
machine tagging, right? So
Interesting.
how good is it, and how, when it will replace people
Yeah.
doing this? So I explored that in my podcast. I was like, tagging tech, and I wrote a book about that, keywording now. And then I explored rights management. So once you find it, can you use it legally?
Yeah.
So-
Can I use
right?
this?
So,
Mhm.
well, you find out the hard way by getting sued,
Right,
which is how a
exactly.
lot of companies do. Copyright still
Mm.
counts for some reason. You can't just scrape the internet off
Yeah.
for photos, minor details, like that, and you figure out the hard way. So I explored all the different companies that help companies with rights management.
Yeah.
So rights.tech was born, and I wrote a book about that. Then, so you see this model, right, where I'm
Yeah.
creating a podcast and then I create a book. So
Mhm.
I've done this multiple times that way, where I interview a pile of people, usually in the dozens, if not hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And then I explore that. And the very first one I did was actually a Kickstarter project. I was like, okay, and if you're familiar with the Kickstarter model, it's an
Mhm.
all or nothing model. You
Yes.
you you tell your audience, hey, I have this idea. My idea was, I have these podcasts. Do you want them transcribed? If you do, pay for it, and I'll give you a
Mhm.
book about it. Right.
Mhm.
So I was like, sure, no problem, I'll do that. So I got the funding. I did the book. Some people even wanted a print book. I was like, okay, a 500 page color inside and out book, no problem. It's going to cost you a fortune, but
Yeah.
you will pay for it. And they wanted it. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, sure. I will make 5 print copies for a low $300. And
Wow.
they're like,
Yep.
and
Yep.
they're all like, okay, I will take that. I was like, okay, no
Okay.
problem. You
It's
pay for
yours.
my projects.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
no problem. So you can see the model where basically I interview people with the boilerplate questions. I ask the exact same questions all the time, and I get different answers every
Of
single
course.
time, which is because people have a different perspective, different lens that
Yeah.
they're looking through,
They
different
do.
company, different
Mhm.
use cases, which is fascinating. So rather than expecting the same answers over and over and over and over again, you will be surprised, and that's the model that I create. So obviously, there's a lot of editing from the podcast because
Mhm.
there's so all that fun stuff,
Yeah.
which doesn't transcribe well into a book because no one
Right.
cares about reading that
Nobody.
ever.
Right.
And then there's the book creation and the book release, and the goal is not to be on my shelf. Most of them are ebooks. I've written 2 books about DAM, actually 3, who's
Mhm.
counting, and some were co-written, and some were just requests by people saying, "Hey, I want you to write a book about blockchain
Yeah.
because that's an exciting topic at the time,
Mhm.
and Bitcoin." I was like, "Sure, no problem." So I've given like dozens of talks about that after I wrote my book, because
Yeah.
a lot of people who write books want to do the speaker circuit. So I've been on the speaker circuit for a variety of topics. So I
Yeah.
speak on a regular basis, and you can find all the magic topics. Back to your point around being a polymath, if you will.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you for calling me that. I've never been called that, but I don't take offense to it. It sounds good. Thank you, Junaid.
You're welcome.
So it's henrikdegyor.com /speaking. You can find
Mhm.
all the different engagements that I do around speaking. So recordings sometimes like this, where I do podcasts, interviews. I asked to speak at conferences or whatever. So yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. So basically, I'm a consultant, I'm a podcaster, I'm an author, and I do a few other things, but less so.
Well, that's really fascinating. Now, when I read your podcast name, I didn't read. I was like, oh, another damn podcast, because there were so many podcasts. I'm like, oh, I'm doing another podcast, but it's not that. It's actually digital asset management. Now that is more interesting to me, and that goes to show how big attention people pay, or I do, um, because I would love that solution of digital assets management, right? Because I've had 2-3 terabytes of hard drives full of videos and photos and pictures and whatnot. And I'm like, how do I even organize this stuff? And I have gigabytes and gigabytes of photos uploaded on my Flickr account, and then now it's on my Google account, and now it's on my iCloud. It's like, how do you even, you know, manage this? And
Mhm.
sure, with the new iPhones, they kind of do the picture
Mhm.
face recognition. They kind of do search, but again, it's so much to go through.
Yes.
It's mind blowing.
It is. It is. And some of the clients I deal with, they have millions of files. So
Mm,
imagine that. So it's one thing to have your own personal archive to your exact point,
yeah,
and terabytes and terabytes or more of that stuff, which is only accumulating. Like, think about it. We're
yeah.
only creating more
We're,
digital files, right?
yes, we are.
A- and the latest book I did was, interestingly enough, about synthetic media, where we know how fast we create media as
Hmm.
humans, right? The idea behind synthetic media is AI can create media for us,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
multiply that in the sense of how fast it can be created,
Hmm.
like 100 times in the next, like, within 5 years from now,
Yeah,
realistically speaking,
yeah.
safely. So if you can't manage it now,
Wait till that happens.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's going to be loads of fun after
yeah.
that. But to your point, the solution is really categorization. It starts with categorization. It's like, okay, you have
Mm,
audio files, obviously. You have photos that you mentioned, right? Understand what those things are within your own personal archive. And you understand, like, you break it down to the type of media it is.
yeah.
Then you can break it down to the date, right? Right. So by
Yep.
year, for example, right.
Hmm.
So pictures of your kids or of loved ones, right. That kind of stuff. Obviously, those are memorable events that will may never occur again, right? Like, especially
Yeah.
when they're born.
Hmm.
Those are usually one-time things.
One time thing. Yeah, one time. Exactly.
Whether you have one or several, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
so kind of hard to recreate those and get more later. So those are memorable historic events that
Mhm.
you will cherish for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
As a parent, I'm sure there's many memorable events aside from weddings and other things that you want to cherish for as long as they mean something to you.
Hmm.
And those are important things that you want to archive. But there's also things that you may not care about, like, pictures of your feet that you accidentally took when you were like
Yeah.
turning on the camera,
Yeah.
right? Those things are trash, right? Realistically speaking, unless you really, really liked your shoes a lot. And there's a thing, right?
Right.
It's a
There's
thing.
yes, the thing.
Sneakerheads or
Hmm.
it's a big
Hmm.
deal, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, understand what you want to archive and how you want to search for it. And aside from categorization, so those are broad topics. Then there's also like nitty gritty things like tags, right? We
Mm.
we already know how to like do hashtags in the past, from social media world. Thank you. But
Yeah.
those
Thank you.
same tags have value when you search for social media. When you search for stock photography or audio files, right?
Yes, they
Yeah,
do.
on websites. That's exactly how they're sold. Because if you
Mm.
can't find it, you can't use it, and if you can't find it or use it, you can't sell it
Yeah.
either.
Or either. Oh, wow. Mm.
Right?
Yep.
So those are the broad topics around like managing media and digital asset management, right? Because you're only going to accumulate more, right? And
Yes.
it doesn't matter where it lives. Like, obviously you want backups, because hard drives fail eventually. Even sites, they collapse or say, oh, no more storage for you.
Yeah.
But we used to have unlimited storage and
Yeah.
blah blah website, right? That we're all familiar with those. And then certain sites go poof, right, eventually.
Yep.
So you want to make sure that before they go poof you have all of
Before,
it.
yeah, we
If
have all of
Yeah,
that stuff. Yeah. Oh,
same thing with phones, right? Phones are disposable, let's be honest, after n years, right?
yes.
Whether it's your phone provider would love for you to switch phones every single year, of
Yes, they
course.
want to.
Some
Yeah.
people some people cling to them a little bit longer than necessary.
Yes, they
we
do.
we all know those culprits. That's okay.
Hmm.
But eventually those phones either go on some cloud device or some storage device, right,
Yeah.
of some sort, or they go poof with the phone. Which would you like to happen, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Because it's one thing to have it on social media at page X where they strip all the metadata and all that fun stuff.
Hmm.
And then there's value to that metadata, like where it was shot and, what the location and the
Yeah.
date and,
Yeah.
and potentially who was in the picture if it's doing facial recognition, right? A
Yeah.
lot of the tools nowadays are, like you mentioned, your iPhone is doing that. I mentioned to somebody who never realized that, and we were like all proud of a stock. They had cut down a bunch of wood that fell in their forest,
Yeah.
and there's like, oh look, I made a big pile of wood for my fireplace. It was like, I wanted to show it to you, but I keep scrolling and I can't find it. It's like, why don't you type in wood and see what happens?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, he had never tagged ever any photo on the
Yeah.
planet, right?
Yeah.
And it came up.
It came up.
It
Hmm.
came up. So it's people, places, and things right now that it's recognizing.
Recognizing. Yeah.
Like, so if you self-identify, this is Henrik and this is Junaid, on pictures that you might have of us, great, it'll identify them. Otherwise, it'll just do facial pattern
Yeah.
recognition, saying this person looks like that person, right?
Yes.
Um, right, and that's helpful too most of
Hmm.
the time if it's accurate. Let's be honest,
Yeah.
it's not always accurate. It's getting better,
It is.
but
It is
it's more.
definitely getting better. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the whole idea, is to simplify your life, right? Because the less time you're creating and curating
Hmm.
metadata, which I know I guarantee you, like loads of people want to do this. Not really.
But they
Hence,
don't.
unstructured metadata,
Hmm.
unstructured data, right? This
And
is
yeah.
what we're talking about. Unstructured data, where it's in a pile somewhere, on a hard drive, somewhere on a shelf,
Yeah.
maybe, or in a CD if we still have those, or DVDs if we still use those.
Hmm.
Not for long, right? Because physical media is going to go away for the most part,
Yeah.
and storage will continue being there in some form. Let's be honest.
One form or
Just like,
another. Yeah.
yeah, whether remember tape.
Oh
We might
yes.
be able remember, yeah,
Remember
remember
those tape
8 tracks, if
eight
our
tracks? Yeah.
LPs, records,
Hmm.
video discs, all gone.
They're all gone. That's right. That
Yeah.
they're all being recycled
Hmm.
to be your glasses or your
Yeah.
water
Yeah.
bottles or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't know
Exactly.
how to-
So, yeah.
That's so fascinating. So your new book is talking about synthetic media creation and how it's created. And you're absolutely right. We're recreating memories at a really fast pace, and technology is too. There's actually an app called lately.ai. I mean, there's lately AI, there's Jasper AI that's creating content for you. You just give it a few things and it's like, okay, let me go create some content for you. It's definitely fascinating, and where the world is heading.
Mhm.
The question becomes, how do you assign that value? I'm like, okay, this is trash. And is that gonna happen with synthetic media also? Is synthetic
Yeah.
media
To a degree. I mean, you probably don't want synthetic, probably don't want an AI to decide what's
right?
valuable to you or
Right,
not, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Because granted, it's still on the common sense angle, right? Of, well, number one, do we have common sense? A,
Yes.
it's kind of helpful. B, do we transfer that to our favorite AIs,
Yeah. Yeah.
saying this is important to us, this is not.
Mm,
That those values vary
very
quite
right.
wildly
Yeah.
based on a variety of things, which we
Yeah.
don't need to go into because that's a whole different discussion,
That's a whole
right?
totally different discussion.
Yeah, 100%. But it is a matter of what do you want it to do for you, right? Because what I found, which was really really fascinating, going down the curiosity rabbit hole,
Mhm.
is that all five senses have been synthesized already to a degree. They just haven't been commercialized yet.
Oh.
So, so I can synthesize myself, which I am in the process of doing.
Mhm.
Where soon you'll be talking to my avatar, and it'll look and sound exactly like me,
Wow.
and you can give me the questions ahead of time, and my avatar will answer them with the script that I give it, right?
Mm.
And
Mhm.
it'll sound and move exactly like me.
Yeah.
Literally, if I want hands in there, no problem. I can
Yeah.
have like talk, do all that hand
Yeah.
movement
Yeah.
stuff, no problem. So that's easy. So you can hear me, you can see me, or yourself for that matter. This is not that expensive, honestly,
Wow.
and or you can have an other avatar speaking for you,
Mhm.
right? Because everyone loves public speaking. Last time I checked, right? aside
Oh,
from us,
yes. It's my
aside from
favorite
us.
thing to do.
So some of us are extroverts, and then
Mhm.
there's everyone else, right?
Yeah.
Who are like,
Exactly. I
no,
don't wanna speak.
right?
Mhm.
Which isn't that bad as long as you practice, like us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Quite a bit, and you get better at it. But long story short, beyond speaking and or hearing us, and or um, getting clearer on what we sound like, which also does synthetic media does. So
Yeah.
if you have an accent, if you want to sound like someone with their permission, intent, if you want to look like someone
Mm.
and move like them, you can do that as well with their permission. And their the other sense which we're talking about is touch. So they're prototyping cars and planes by today's standard,
Mhm.
literally now. Like before they make the car, before they make the plane, it's like, do you like these seats? Do you like the knobs being here or there? Right? Do you like the feel of these controls, or should we
Yeah.
make them tighter? And they can literally make that feeling in a pair of gloves that you wear,
Yeah.
right? So you can prototype with gloves, and you can feel the steering wheel, right? Or
It's
the
amazing.
yoke. And yeah, it's amazing, right? And then the other two things, which is mind blowing, and it's actually been done
Mhm.
two different ways, is synthetic smell
Oh
and
my
synthetic
god, I do
taste.
not. I
Synthetic
don't
smell
wanna
and synthetic taste.
imagine smell.
But the request
Yeah.
that was actually, so I spoke to the people who've done this
Mhm.
successfully. They tested it on a bunch of people with reasonable success rates, and it depends on a variety of things, because our nose is not the cleanest place on the planet, or,
Yeah.
or, or on our body. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, right? So you have
Mhm.
to clean that area obviously before doing this. Same thing with our mouth. Not the cleanest place on the planet.
Right.
If you bite somebody, they'll find out the hard way.
Yes,
It's like,
exactly. It's
or vice
not
versa.
cleaning
You
it.
get bitten. It's like, oh, look, I got bitten.
Yeah.
Anyways, long story short, the synthetic taste and synthetic smell has been done. And now they're just working on the right frequencies and the right
Oh,
tonalities
wow.
to do this or the right chemicals to make this happen. Because a Michelin chef actually asks for this to happen,
Oh,
not
wow.
because he wants less people in his restaurant. No,
Yeah.
the complete opposite. Because he can't have enough people in his restaurant, but he wants more reservations, right?
Wow.
So why not have the best recipes that he's made, and you can call them up and go, what does that smell like?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm going to book a reservation now for
Oh my
next
God.
year,
Oh my
right?
God. This is
Okay. Do you see
insane. Yeah. Yeah. I see it. I see
and
it.
right? So what we're really missing from this, and everyone has this when I tell people about synthetic media, is the common fear, right? Because what we know about synthetic media right now is it's deepfake, right? It's deepfake porn,
Deepfake. Yeah.
deepfake. It's without request. It is not with disclosure, et cetera, et cetera. All those things that are driving fear, right? And
Yeah.
then there's the fear, of course, the unknown. Even if you don't know about all the deepfakes,
Yeah.
right? So the fear of the unknown is very scary because you're not
In
understanding it yet.
control. Yeah.
So that's why I have Synthetic Media, the book, and I have Synthetic Media, the podcast, to
Mm.
explain this on a weekly basis and explain like what people are doing with not malintent, but actually trying to make you smile, trying to entertain you,
Yeah.
trying to make things better for you, trying to do this for medical reasons, trying to do this for disability reasons. One of
That's
the
right.
first examples that I was given was a company that creates, synthesizes your voice, and you can donate your voice to someone who either wasn't born with one
Mm.
or lost it by injury or disease, right? So
Yeah.
imagine a little girl or a little boy without a voice,
Yeah.
and you can donate a voice, obviously altered to their age range, right?
Right.
So it's not your voice,
Right.
but they can finally have a voice, your voice, and called up instead of having the Stephen Hawking's voice, which is everyone wants that one.
Yeah.
Not really, right? They're trying to replace that and make it a little
They
bit
are.
more
Yeah. More
human, right?
human. Yeah.
So humanizing the challenge of not having a voice, right? There's another example of a blind person, blind people. They can synthesize with echo and understand what's around them
Yeah.
by wearing a pair of glasses that actually makes them a echogram, if you will, of what's around them. Like, oh,
Wow.
you're coming up to a pole or a wall, or here's an open doorway, right? That
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, right? And understanding that. There's other examples around um, uh, the other parts is around the ethical discussion around it, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of ethical discussions around it,
Of course.
where
Has
like
to be.
what's possible, what should be possible, how are we going to handle this or that or the other thing, what do those standards look like,
Mm.
if we can create them. So there's several ways. So there's one thing about deep fake detection, right? And detecting what. There's another about disclosing it, right? Disclosing this is synthetic media. This is not real because the original person did not create this, and telling people openly
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
right? And there's talks about doing provenance. What is that? It's the history of an asset. So whether something was altered or not, like just this audio discussion, right?
Right.
Was it altered or not? Was it done with real people or synthetic people,
Mm.
right? Because
Interesting.
there
Yeah.
have been podcasts actually done by two synthetic people.
Oh my God.
It's been done already. You can find it on YouTube, where they have a fairly interesting conversation where it's like, how does it feel to be synthetic? Well, it feels interesting. Quite literally. But open disclosure, and
Oh
then
man.
more importantly, consent, right? Consent of that individual that had been synthesized, saying, so celebrities are doing this, well-known celebrities, and because they're doing it for the reasons of scalability.
Scalability. Yeah.
Right. Think about it. So celebrities are asked to do lots of things for lots of people, right? Go to blah, blah event, blah, blah location, do
Yeah.
this ad, all that stuff. And some of them, they don't really want to do, let's be
Mm-hmm.
honest, right? They would love to go to every single birthday party of a fan, right?
Yeah.
Of all the fans that they have. Let's pretend they have 1 million fans.
Yeah.
Now it's actually possible. It's actually possible to go and personalize a message saying, Junaid, I'm your favorite celebrity, let's pretend. Happy birthday. I'm going to sing you your favorite songs that I've made, blah, 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 just
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
That you've picked ahead of time, and
Yeah.
personalize them, right? So
Wow.
now you can do that at scale. Isn't that amazing? Okay, now
That's
imagine you have to do an ad and you don't really want to go to freezing zone X on the
mm-hmm.
planet, right? Because you have better things to do and you prefer to be in warm location
Yeah,
X,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
At home, right? Wherever you live. So you send your avatar and
Mm.
they get to spend days making the best cut possible of your avatar, saying whatever they need you to say, and then you get to a final approval.
Mm.
Done. And you still get your $1 million a day or whatever that looks
Yeah,
like
yeah,
for the
yeah.
ad, right?
That's
Now imagine if you're a singer, same thing.
same thing, right? Now you
There's
can.
no limit to this,
There's
right?
no
It's like,
limit.
oh,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna have the AI create songs based on my previous songs, right? You see the unlimited creative potential. And this
Yeah.
is exactly why synthetic media has been made. It's to have unlimited creative potential and taking away the technical barriers, right? So you don't
Mm.
have to know about lighting and sound and video and blah, 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 all this other stuff. You can just practice your craft, right? Whatever that craft happens to be. And then it creates it for you. And then, yes, of course, you can still do your thing,
Of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dang.
but now you can do it at scale.
Now you
And
can do it at
that's the
scale.
message, right? Yeah. Unlimited scale.
Scalability. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. My mind is literally blown. Okay.
That was the goal, right?
Right. It was a goal to blow my mind. This was fun. This was really good. All right. So we have the ability to create a virtual. I mean, I've been talking about cloning myself, right? This is exactly it, especially with AI, with synthetics and ability to give it instructions and do what you want it to do. You can, literally have multiple, and ethics is important, right? Because we've seen what happens, right? We've seen
Yes.
it in the movies, we've seen it in
Yes.
iRobot, seen it in
Totally.
all
Absolutely.
sorts of places
Mhm.
because you're essentially giving one source the entire power to create media, to be whoever they want to be, because we're literally feeding, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, what we like, what we don't like, by shopping the things that we like, by browsing history. We're literally giving them everything. And I think Elon Musk mentioned, like, there's not going to be one AI. No, there's several AIs, and we're training them right now.
Yes. And he owns OpenAI,
And he
which is one
owns
of
it.
the best of the synthetic media out there. You can literally draw like 3 lines and it'll create you a photorealistic scene of a beach
Wow.
with mountains in the background. Literally like beach, mountain, done. And then photorealistic. Do you like that one? You want to alternate it? Sure. You want snow on that mountain? No problem. Do you want more sand, more water? You want rocks in the water? No problem.
Mm,
Like it's literally just a filter.
that's amazing.
That's called DALI. Literally. DALI. Like it's a play on words like Wall-E. You remember the Wall-E
Oh,
movie?
Wally Dolly.
And
Nice.
Dali, the artist, of course.
Nice. Salvador Dali.
DALLE.
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, I like that. This is amazing. Just when you knew, like, this is the power of podcasting and the power of being able to talk with a polymath. Like here, right? You're literally have talked to, like, you're creating 10 books, right? You've gone deep enough to have 100, 10 to 100, dozen to 100 conversations on one specific topic, and that's what happens, right? And the theme is, there's no limit to what the human mind can contain. They actually tried to say, okay, what would it take for a physical media to store the human mind? Well, back then they didn't know what it would be, but now we know what it is. It's a cloud. Like the cloud can store everything and give it enough resources. But again, it's still only able to create, replicate one or two mind powers, right? Your human brain is still superior because it's not just the brain, it's the soul that creates these thoughts, right? It's pretty
Mhm.
powerful.
It is.
So it's been really awesome talking to you. After the break, Henrik is going to share with us 3 hacks to take away with you as we create synthetic media in this brand new world. So we'll be right back. I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that will reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities. All right, guys, welcome back to the episode. We've been talking with Henrik De Gyor, and my mind has literally been blown. If you've been listening to the episode up till now, you can literally see what is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, I can't even imagine because we are moving at warp speed, like literally warp speed. They found that technology and they brought it to real life, and we're moving really fast. So Henrik is going to share with us 3 hacks to take away that you can implement in your life, in your business, in your entrepreneurship, whatever it is that you're doing, because the power of the internet is literally in the palm of your hands. Like you're listening probably to this conversation on your smartphone, and that is literally in the palm of your hand, right? So you can change the future. You can change where you can't change where you came from, but you can totally change where you are going. And we were talking about DALL-E, how it can create original realistic images just from text description. I'm looking at an astronaut riding a horse in space. Like this is mind blowing. So Henrik, take it away. What can people
Sure.
do? Yeah.
Well, they can do anything.
They can do
right?
anything.
So as long as you can, and literally we're limited to our own creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Quite literally, that
Yeah.
is what we're now limited by.
Yeah.
If we can't imagine it or dream it and remember it, of course, after we wake up,
Yeah.
that is what we're actually limited by now. So in less than 10 years, probably this decade,
Mhm.
you'll be able to create a Hollywood level quality movie on your laptop alone with synthesized individuals,
Oh my God.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Today, you can go like what you just mentioned, Junaid, text to image and text to video, meaning you type what you want to see and versions of it come up. And if you don't like that version, you type a couple more characters or you say, no, change it up. And it'll come up with a new version or 50 versions, whatever you want, you know? So my 3 tips for you are, the first one is just start. Literally just start. If you have an idea,
Mm-hmm.
start it, right?
Yes.
Stop blocking yourself and don't wait for anyone's permission, and reevaluate that fear that you might be facing. It was like, I don't have time. I was like, really? Are you sure? Because I guarantee you can find some hours that you're burning on your phone looking at social,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of doing that, like I deleted social to actually write a book. Big surprise.
Yeah.
Big secret, right? Like,
I'm doing that tomorrow. Okay.
if I'm scrolling on social,
Mhm.
guess what? I don't write a book.
Yes.
Let's think about this for an hour,
Mhm.
right? So it's like which one should I do?
Yeah.
Which one will lead me to a better path,
Yeah.
right? Right. Okay. The second tip if you will, is just ask. Okay, you don't know everything.
No.
Neither do I. Let's be honest. That's why I interview people. That's why you interview people, right?
Yes.
And you want to find out new stuff, right? So if you don't know, just ask, and you'll be surprised if you're asking the right crowd or the right people. You will likely get the answers that you need. Not necessarily the answers you want, but the answers that you need, right? So don't look for that comfort zone in permanence, right? The idea is you get out of that comfort zone and you get cracking on what you actually wanted to get started on and continue. And the third one is persistence. This is how I got to where I am. And this is how I continue, right? If you have persistence and you started and you keep going and you keep asking, you are very likely to get where you want to get to eventually. Maybe not to the actual like deadline that you set, like tomorrow I want to be a billionaire. Probably not likely, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow I want 10,000 NFTs. Maybe.
Spend enough time on Dolly. Yeah.
If synthetic media is creating it for you, it's possible.
Yeah.
Actually possible today. But with a lot of computing power. But if you set yourself realistic goals, because you have other things to do, let's be honest. But if you just get started, you ask, and you're persistent on what your goals are, right? And you have to have like tangible written goals, like SMART goals.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've discussed this before. SMART meaning they're specific, they're measurable,
very specific,
actionable, they're realistic, and they're time bound, right? If they're smart, you're very likely, and you're persistent, you're very likely to do it. And you don't have to be a genius, honestly, right? It's just about, yes, some hard work. Yes, you might fail, and you might learn something if you fail, right? You pick yourself up and you keep going and you keep asking. Maybe other people. There are other people in the world that you actually speak to right now, right? That I speak to right now. I love speaking to other people, right? Yeah. This is the thing. Granted, I'm an extrovert. I'm an ESTJ, full disclosure, but who's counting? Just ask. Just get started. Just ask and be persistent. Those are my 3 tips.
Man, I love those tips because I teach them myself. Because without that, my podcast wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have done cycling. I wouldn't be a beekeeper. I wouldn't, be where I am today. It's because of persistence, and because people got started, and we have a ton of examples in our world that we're living in. We could look at actors, we can look at athletes, we can look at scientists. They weren't able to accomplish just by wishing. They actually had to work for it, work at it, get it done. So thank you so much, Henrik, for those amazing tips that resonate time and time again. And that's what I've been finding. The formula for success is that, be curious, get started, keep going, find help, ask people. People, we love to help, right? Wouldn't you, like, if somebody came to you and like, Henrik, I want to start a podcast, what would you tell them?
I mentor people all the time.
Yeah. All the time.
For books, for podcasts, for businesses. That's why I'm a consultant. Exactly. And I don't necessarily charge, for people who just have a simple question, right? Yeah. Or just want some advice on, hey, I'm at this point in my life, in my business, and I need blah blah blah, right? Whether I've talked to students, and students literally, like, I find it fascinating when people actually you're using their brain and they're actually curious, right? Yeah. And they have a trajectory, right, in mind. It may be flawed, may be perfect, doubtful, right? But they have a trajectory in mind, and they're like, I'm looking to doing this, right? I'm happy to guide them. I'm literally doing that next week. I'm doing a startup weekends. That's a fascinating 54-hour thing. Yeah. If you've ever done that, Techstars Startup Weekend, they're all over the world. There's like the one I'm doing, it happens to be near me in Beaufort, South Carolina. Nice. But it's 54 hours from a Friday night to a Sunday. You have no ideas, no team, no business. And by the end of Sunday night, you're pitching one with a team.
It's amazing. Oh my God. See what the power of human mind and community and coming together. So that's what I'm saying, right? You ask somebody, they are willing to give you all the help that they can because it is in human nature to help each other. And it's just beautiful.
It is.
Well, Henrik, it was really amazing talking with you. I am overjoyed with the information I have. I am thinking of so many things that just blow my mind, and I'm just living in the future. My friend says, we're living in the future, and what the future holds is amazing. Right before I let you go, I have a quick question I'd love to ask you. Quick fire ones. All right, sweet. First one. What is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
Kite surfing.
Cool. Kite surfing. I've seen some really rad videos of kite surfing, and it's really fun. Awesome.
It sounds like it. Yeah, I've seen it. I've started learning how to fly the kite, but I haven't actually hit the water yet.
You'll get there soon. I know
will.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next one. What did you want to be when you were a child?
I wanted to be a number of things, but I wanted to be astrophysicist or a architect. And I went down those two paths, and I learned that I'm terrible at math, being a polymath. That sounds hilarious, right? and I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. So, well, we don't use rulers anymore in architecture, but so I may still have a chance.
You just might. That's awesome. I love it. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
Billions on Showtime.
Billions. Yeah. That's an awesome show. And I keep forgetting his name, but Paul Giamatti, he's just amazing. He
is.
I mean, I've seen him from the early movies and like watch him grow. It's like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
He's
very good.
Yeah.
Like his depiction of the revolutionary person, John Adams.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen that, that's probably some of his best work ever.
Wow.
Mind blowing. Yeah. But he's good in Billions too.
Yeah, he is. All right, sweet. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
If I had to play a character in a movie?
In a movie, yeah.
In a movie. I would like to be in Billions.
Yes. Awesome. I think that's a pretty awesome answer. Next question. 2 more left. Who is your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero? Batman, of course.
Batman. I am Batman.
Real human, but he has a lot of tools.
Real human. He's got lots of tools, and he uses his brain intelligently. I love that. And last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
I haven't played board games in a long time.
Yeah.
Chess.
Chess. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Henrik, give us... chess is definitely an amazing game. My kids recently got into it, and they're like, we love it. It's so awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of moves ahead that you have to think about.
You got to keep thinking ahead. You gotta think like Dolly over here. Mm-hmm. Where can my audience find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn under my name. You can also find me on henrikdegyor.com, which is one of my websites, and that leads you to all my books, podcasts, and even ability to contact me directly.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Henrik, it was such a pleasure speaking with you. I'm thoroughly exhilarated. I mean, I don't even have the words to talk about it because I'm thinking about things that I haven't thought about. Like the future it's just so beautiful. Like when you think about it, and then
it is.
Combine that with the past and future. I mean, there's just so much you got to go off of. Thank you again so much. I'll look forward to speaking with you soon. See you again.
Definitely. Thanks again.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Appreciate your time. This was a fun one. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode on Hacks and Hobbies. We absolutely appreciate your contribution. You can find additional notes on hacksandhobbies.com. Please share the podcast with your friends and tell them what you learned about our guest today.